It's your professionalism that I respect.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. I'm watching you during the opening and you laughing at your own joke of dropping in the professionalism.
I love that. Is my favorite cameo of all time. Bill Murray and Steve Martin as the evil dentist. It is the best. Little Shop of Horrors. The movie's okay.
It's 196 episodes in. Maybe you explain where that came from.
Yeah, it's Little Shop of Horrors
movie. Yeah.
with Rick Moranis, Steve Martin, and Bill Murray. And the movie's okay, but it's worth that 15 minutes. Bill Murray coming into a sadist as a masochist into a sadistic dentist, and the chemistry is just brilliant.
It is. And I don't know that those. I'm sure that they have, but those two on screen together were just about as funny.
Yeah.
As you could possibly get. Anthony, I've been out exercising and trying to get through sort of this winter malaise. Sometimes I put on a few pounds. So, but you know what that winter chubbiness turns into? Spring rolls.
Spring rolls. Oh, I got it.
Wow. Yeah. When you have to say "I got it," it's not. That
I'm not that bright. For the longest time, I thought soy milk means I am milk.
But your Spanish is excellent. Really good Spanish. Very proud of that Duolingo streak that you've got going.
Two food jokes for you this morning. Ladies and gentlemen.
Anthony, interesting topic today. What?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
What if the dishonesty you're fighting is the system you designed working perfectly? Joe DeBlock handed 10,000 Burt Zorg nurses full control of their budget, which, by the way, Burt Zorg, Anthony, is what?
Dutch.
It's a healthcare company. We had to look at it. Control there with no management layer. Dishonesty didn't rise; it dropped. Today on How to Founder, we're going to be talking about what to do with employee dishonesty and why the system you're building might be the real source of your problem. I am your host, Chris Franks. With me,
we're going to go off. We're going to go off the premise right away. Like sometimes people are just dishonest, and we got to talk about that directly. It's not always the founder's fault. But keep going. Sorry, Chris.
Thank you. I mean, why don't you go ahead and take over it? Today on How to Founder, we're going to be talking about employee dishonesty. I'm your host, Chris Franks. With me, Mr. Anthony Franco, who's also the host, apparently. So, Anthony, go ahead, ask the questions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so truthfully, like, Chris, have you ever? I think we started this just before we were on. Like, all right, let's define dishonesty, because dishonesty is taking cash out of the cash drawer. It could be lying about the status of a project. It could be exaggerating the outcomes. It could be part of the sales process that you're lying to the customer about what you're going to accomplish. So I think all of those I think the where that falls determines how you, or does it?
No, I mean, I think
any dishonesty a terminable offense.
Probably not. And I think we can go with examples, but I think that the reason why it's an interesting question is it's a very, very moral and philosophical question. Anthony, is lying bad? Is lying always bad?
Deception destroys trust.
Honey, how do I look in this dress?
This is now the third time you've asked me that, Chris. So
I mean, it's the second most frequent thing that I ask. The point there being is that lying doesn't always come from a bad place. It comes from a place sometimes of you wanting to protect the feelings and emotions of other people. Is that true?
So look, there's certain circumstances I'd rather be lied to, especially when it comes to my wife. But that's different. That just has different consequences. So first of all, my wife is beautiful. Like, honestly, my wife is beautiful. So if she asked me, I'd be like, no. And that would be honest. But let's say I thought she looked terrible in her dress. I'd tell her, because I would say, hey, maybe that's not the look you're going for tonight. Right. Or but I would tell her because she genuinely wants to know if she looks okay. So I don't know if I let her go out knowing that she would be disappointed with how she looked, she'd be upset with me. It's like, would I let her walk around with lipstick on her teeth? I wouldn't, because that's not a kind thing to do.
So you believe that not lying is a kinder thing to do than lying. What if, I know you've been in this situation because every human has, where lying is the more kind approach, where somebody is genuinely, and I'll take it from our perspective, Anthony, when you have somebody that has already gone all in on a startup idea, and it was probably a bad example because you and I would tell them it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But and they desperately need this thing to work, and you go like, yeah, maybe, it's in the back of your mind, you're like, there's no way. But Anthony, the opposite is true. Nobody ever tells you your baby's ugly is a classic thing that startup people face, right? What happens? People lie to founders all the time. Constantly.
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
To avoid conflict. I don't want to say names, but a really good friend of mine talks about this quite a bit. When he's asked advice on a startup, he doesn't tell them, he basically says, I'm not qualified to answer that question, which isn't true. That's a lie.
Yeah.
But first of all, he's like, who am I to know one way or the other? Honestly, there's so much luck involved and founder perseverance that's involved that you can't discern from just an idea. Like there's so many products on the market that you're like, how did that ever become a thing? And it's a wild success. And you would have told the founder that's a terrible idea. So there's a part of that that's
Uber
true.
was a terrible idea. I thought Uber was stupid. I had a chance to invest early, and I was like, the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Yeah.
No.
But there's also this, like, it depends on who they're talking to, right? If I ask that person if this is a dumb idea, he'll tell me, yeah, it's a dumb idea, or it's a good idea, or here's how you need to tweak it. So it really depends on the relationship that you have with that individual, whether or not, do I look fat in this dress? Do you answer that question? But that's not really what you're kind of steering this sideways, right? So we're talking about employee dishonesty, and you asked me the question, is lying bad in general?
Well,
like, can lying ever be good? Can lying ever be good? And I have to look, I'm not saying I've never lied, but every time I have, it's bitten me in the ass. So from a preservation perspective, it's a terrible idea.
You as a services company, you're constantly balancing resources to try to deliver work to customers. And there are those times when you're going to miss because something happens, something breaks, etc. Going to the customer and saying, hey, we messed up, could be a trust building exercise, but the vast majority of services company will be like, hey, it's on the 1 yard line, somebody was out sick, something like that. make a little white lie to buy you a little bit more time to finish the project.
Well, my
Never
favorite
done that?
quote on lying is a Seinfeld reference, obviously. So Jerry Seinfeld has to go in on a lie detector test with a girlfriend, and he comes to George Costanza and he says, "How do I beat the lie detector test?" And he's like, "It's like asking Picasso how he paints. Like, you can't do it." He said, "But I'll give you one hint. It's not a lie if you believe it's true." And so when you're talking to a client, can you? This is about exposing the level of anxiety on whether you're not going to complete. That's different than telling an out and out lie when you know you're not going to deliver. If you have an employee telling a client that you're going to deliver when they know you're not, when it's impossible to deliver, that's a lie. If you have an employee, a client services person that's telling a client if everything is true, optimally true, if all of these conditions are true, we're going to deliver on time. That's truthful. Now they may know that not all of those things are going to be true. Like they just may know based on history and everything else, these things can't possibly actually line up given the history. But if they we're going to deliver it on time. That's not a lie. That's telling them that they believe they could if these conditions are appropriate.
So I think we've set up the conversation, right? On one aspect, we have big lies, we have theft, we have genuine dishonesty of people fake their resumes or backgrounds, et cetera. And on the other side, hey, Anthony, where's that work you promised? Oh, it's in progress. I'll get it to you in just a few minutes. When the reality is that I know, Anthony, that you're busy. You're going to forget, and that'll buy me till the end of the day to get the work done. Those are two different areas, and there's all kinds of different areas on the spectrum of being dishonest. But let's start at the easy side, which is big dishonesty. What are the experiences you've had with large dishonesty?
Large dishonesty. I've had an account rep lie about the status of a budget and deceive me and our client about where the budget dollars were coming from. So he was stealing from one project to pay for another in order to make sure that he got his commission check.
Right. Weird salespeople tend to be the first thing that pops into your head. Like salespeople are never.
Yeah, you look. Usually, salespeople are great, but this one just happened to not be afraid of dishonesty. I found out after we were acquired, so there wasn't a lot that I could do about it. But I would have best performing salesperson. I would have fired him if I found out when I was in control of the company. Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. I mean, our client was a publicly traded company, and he was in cahoots with somebody else on the company side. Like it was bad. It was bad, and I would have fired him, and I would have told the client what their person did on their side. Immediately, you're out, and then I would have gone to the client and just said, "This is what's happened. We're both at fault. How do we rectify it?"
I want to ask the deeper question in a moment, but other examples of the big lie, of the big dishonesty, obviously theft. I started off in retail sales and worked my way up through that. I mean, there's people that would steal from cash register. There are people that would fake commit. They would do all kinds of things there to try to get themselves sort of ahead or make a couple more bucks. I mean, any other examples that you've seen? I have a terrible story, but it's a gigantic dishonesty.
No, I want to hear your story. Yeah. So of course, seen. I owned a restaurant, saw people take out of the till and or put a 1 next to the tip that they got. Right. So they got a $5 tip. All of a sudden, it's a $15 tip. So I've seen that kind of stuff before. And that's easy. You just let them go. Usually it's not a complaint. They caught. They're like, yeah, okay. They're probably happy they're not getting the police called on them.
Right. I once had a CFO of a funded company, well-funded company, several $1 million in the company, found out later that the CEO or CFO was more or less siphoning money off by paying himself 2 salaries within the company. And, should have caught it. It was early in my career, big mistake, but it's not just entry-level employees that do that. I think I've seen it happen across the board, and there are genuinely dishonest people that you will find. And Anthony, I think it's pretty, I don't know why, but I think maybe it's just the systems that we have set up. I think that probably more prevalent in the startup world. I don't know if that's true, but it feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is prevalent throughout, where you have a financial person responsible for has a fiduciary responsibility to your business, that they all of a sudden, they control where the money goes. The temptation is incredible, especially when you're talking lots of zeros that are coming into the company. So this is about checks and balances, for sure. And you watching what's happening and asking about every expense that goes out. That's really the cure. So real, again, we're talking about big lies, big deception, really easy decision.
It's easy, but here's the question, right? So the answer is that there is no gray area. When you find big deception, that person needs to be fired immediately. And you answered the question I was going to ask, which is, if this person is your top performing salesperson, you and I agree on this. It does not matter. Trust has been breached. You have to fire that person. There's a secondary question.
The thing that you catch is only the thing that you catch. If there's one thing, there's more things that you didn't catch. Yeah.
And almost always those come to light later.
Yeah.
But when those things happen, Anthony, what do you ask yourself as the founder, CEO, or manager? What do you ask yourself about your culpability in exposing the company to this? Or do you just say, hey, bad actors will happen? Because I every time this has happened, I have to look at myself in the mirror and go, whoa, something broke in this process, whether it was the system, whether it was the hiring, et cetera. What do you look at?
This is a great question, Chris, because there is a piece of it where good people need trust and autonomy. So you can treat everybody that's working for you with a lot of oversight, but that's a yucky place to work. So I tend to lean on trusting and treating people like adults until I give people a lot of rope. And more often than not, that has proven to be the right decision for me. Because most people are honest. Most people do the right thing. And if you treat everybody like they're dishonest, then what does that say about the people that you're bringing into the company?
Yeah.
And what kind of culture are you setting up? So you do, it's trust but verify is the the stereotypical term. But yeah, I know founders that do it the other way, and they're running a great company too. But my default has always been give people the rope and the trust to do their job well, and just if something smells wrong, go chase it.
I'll tell you my answer. Thank you for asking. Is
I usually don't have to ask.
The hiring. It comes. So the first thing I look at is what questions did I ask that person during hiring? And why didn't I pick up on something that was questionable values on their side? And how could I do a better job the next time of hiring? Here's the problem, Anthony, and this is this is a very real thing that both you and I have seen, which is there's a spectrum about how you run your company. And on one side of it, it is no trust, it is systems, it is punch in, punch out. It is, you have X amount of hours of PTO and you earn that. And that is truly like a very, very rigid system. And then there's the way that I've run companies, which is like, look, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to basically leave carte blanche until somebody really, destroys that level of trust. Typically, the problem that exists, Anthony, is that what you just said, and this is experienced founders will not whiplash to command and control management. But young founders that go through this go, oh, I'm an idiot. How could I ever have this happen? And suddenly now it's about policies and procedures and whiplash and control, and you've stifled innovation and creativity within your organization. Does that resonate?
Yeah, that's the absolute truth. That's the absolute truth. Like let me give you some scenarios, Chris, and you tell me whether or not you fire the person for this or not. Okay. They call in sick and actually went out and went to Disneyland.
Don't fire them, because that means that I have not created the level of trust whereby they said, I'm going to go take my kids to Disneyland. And I'm going to be like, great, go. I need to sit down with that employee and ask the question why.
By the way, I got fired for something similar. I called in sick when I was working at McDonald's in high school. Called in sick to go on a date. The date didn't go well. My date ratted me out to my boss.
Shut up.
Yeah. Apparently she wanted me to kiss her and I was clueless. Yeah, I'm a computer nerd, clueless, and I would have, but I was just too scared. And she ratted me out to my boss. My boss sat me down and fired me. So true story.
I want to dig into that, but that would require you to pay me therapy, Bill. So we'll just let that one go. That is a wild story.
So how about lying to a prospect in a sales call?
I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, and again, salespeople are paid to position your product or service in the most favorable light on behalf of that. But an out and out lie, I would absolutely have a really clear conversation about what just happened and why. And was it a misunderstanding, or was this something that you were just trying to be dishonest? If that was the case, then I would.
How about exaggerating your contribution in a project in order to get a promotion?
I mean, I feel like that's everybody in corporate America. Like that's you've just described.
But where's your line, Chris? Where's your line?
I don't know that I would fire them. I would ask myself the hard question of why did this team fail, and why is it that we couldn't share credit, and what cultural items exist in the company whereby somebody feels like that they need to exaggerate to be able to get promoted. I think that's so common that I don't know that I would fire somebody immediately. How about you? Would you fire that person?
No. But I would have a very long if it was the second time, yes.
Yeah.
It
becomes a pattern of behavior, right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing is in this world of dishonesty, and what you were saying is we've just talked about the extreme cases. Almost always in the extreme cases, once you kind of dig down, there's a pattern of behavior there. People will make errors in judgment, errors in decision in the moment under stress. They may say something like, yeah, I'll have it to you by tonight, when they don't have any intention, or maybe inflate the impact of a particular project to a client. Like, those things happen. So much of this, though, Anthony, comes down to the culture that you set as the leader and the CEO. Have you set a culture of fear? Do you have fear within your organization whereby somebody can be honest, or is dishonesty rewarded because you actually have fear and anxiety prevalent in your organization? That's, I think, maybe the underlying factor of this conversation.
Yeah, where you only measure results? You only measure results. You don't measure tactics or value system. You only are measuring the bottom line. Look, some founders run their business that way and they're very successful. For a while.
I was going to say, tell me who's done that. Okay, classically in Meta will fire every once in a while. They'll fire the bottom third performing of the workforce. Just fire, right? It's not a layoff. They just fire the bottom third performers. That is a really, really toxic environment if you're trying to create trust and collaboration. If you're right there kind of on the bubble of that bottom third, you like working in Meta and making a shit ton of money, what are you going to do to make sure that you're above that? You're talking about now an entire company. The culture of that company now has to exist.
I kind of agree. Honestly, I kind of agree with that tactic, but it depends. Like, it's how you're being measured is important. In that, like, I call it the bottom 10%. And I was turned on to this by somebody I worked with. She said, every year we're gonna look at, and we're gonna look at replacing the bottom 10% of our company every year. And that felt icky to me until you realize the bottom 10% actually pull the rest of the company down. It's not that they're just not holding up their job. It's they're setting an example for everybody else. So water seeks the lowest level, right? So I do agree with that. But to your point, you said, do I have an example of companies that lie, that reward lying? Have you ever tried to unsubscribe from a piece of software and found it really, really difficult?
I mean, this is funny because I don't know if we should mention the company's name, but your neighbor, remember when I came to your house years ago, and that there's like the largest house in the state of Colorado, and you're like,
yeah.
Like, that dude's a credit bureau, like checking service, and try to cancel. Like, you sign up for $20 a month and you can't cancel.
So I was thinking the same thing. That industry, credit bureaus in particular, make it very difficult for you as a consumer to cancel. That's a deceptive business practice. It's black hat UX, and I think it's evil. But
how can you, as a founder, if you're running that company, come in and say, "Hey, we believe in trust and collaboration and creativity, and
exactly
you
right.
can fail, and it's all right. We just want you to be honest, and we learn together." Like, when basically your business is,
This is really funny. We've talked about this before, but if integrity is one of your values, like if you're applying for a company and integrity is on their value list, run. It's not because honesty isn't important and integrity isn't important, but if you have to list it as one of your values, that's a problem.
Yeah, like, we had an issue there, right?
What company doesn't value integrity? It's like, we want to hire employees that breathe. Like, of course, like, you're not going to hire dead employees. You're not going to purposefully hire dishonest employees. You should not have that on a value system unless you're overcompensating for something.
So I think what's interesting is kind of reset this conversation is we started with this idea of, okay, what is employee honesty and what is employee dishonesty and what does that look like? And we started with the extreme, but as we moved down and started to ask some hypotheticals, it fell down to the founder and the leader. And really, that's, I think, probably the underlying current of this conversation, which is, what type of company are you trying to build and how do you build it? Now, here's the hard question, Anthony. You just said, and I know I've been around the companies you've built. In those moments, you're going to have failure if you allow people to go out and be creative and in your world, give them a lot of room, right? And create an environment of trust where failure is, it's okay, that we can accept it if we learn from it, et cetera.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly frustrating as a leader to believe that something is on track and awesome, and then a day before it's supposed to be delivered, somebody come to you and be like, "Yeah, we failed. this is terrible. And your first reaction is to get angry and to get pissed off, et cetera. But as a leader, how do you deal with that dichotomy, that tension within an organization where it's like, hey, you want to let people go out and be themselves and create an atmosphere of trust, but there's failure that will be baked into that model.
I think this is a really difficult question, because I think it does start at leadership. So if you're lying to customers, guess what's going to happen with your employees, right? If you're radically transparent and candid with your clients and with your employees, you're kind of setting the bar. So, whenever I've talked to customers, I just kind of this is the way it is. And if it's our fault, okay, we messed up, but hey, software development or this kind of work or this kind of services, there's no guarantee you're going to have a perfect delivery process. This thing that we're doing for you, failures are expected. It's how we recover. Here's how we're going to recover. So you have to be comfortable with the fact that you say, hey, we messed up here, or not even we messed up. It didn't go the way we had planned or the way we thought. That's perfectly fine. And I go back to wanting to avoid conflict is where I think a lot of dishonesty comes from. Wanting the client to be happy with you, or for you to make your next commission check, or for your next employee review to happen well. Some of those things are just you're just kicking the can down the road. Eventually it's going to blow up on you. Look, guilty of that myself in my career, but it does at some point, you just start to recognize, and I think it's just experience, that sugarcoating anything never works out in your favor.
Here's a very pointed question. You are a VC-backed company.
Mm-hmm.
Classically, VCs are not honest with you, and you're not honest to VCs. It's very rare that you have that level of trust with your funders, where you can go in the room and be like, we absolutely screwed up royally here. We messed up so badly, it put us back full 180 days, and we're absolutely at risk of hitting our funding benchmarks. That is not something that's going to come out of a founder's mouth who is VC backed.
I don't agree.
Here's the only point. You and I will do that, right?
Yep.
You and I have been down this road. First-time founders, early founders, it is a different set of fears, and it is the fear of failure that's driving that. It is the fear of, oh, this whole thing is going to implode. Fear of failure, I think, is the underlying factor there. But I want you to address that. People are never honest.
Yeah. So how do you stand out in that crowd?
Yeah.
How do you stand out in a world that is riddled with dishonesty? How do you stand out? You mea culpa. I screwed up. I messed this up. Look, that's how Slack came to be. You know the story around Slack, right? They were building a gaming platform, and it wasn't successful. And the founder went to his VCs and said, we were wrong. There's no market here. This is how much of your money that I have left. Do you want it back? Like, we're going to shut this thing down. It's not going to work. And to their credit, now not all venture capitals are going to be this way. They looked at him and said, we believe in you, and this honesty is refreshing. What would you like to do? And he's like, well, we use this messaging app internally. It's pretty cool. That's how Slack was born. So, yeah,
$1 billion valuation now, right?
Yeah, an incredible story of what I would think is probably what most founders intuitively would think is like, I need to run this thing to ground, right? I need to spend every last dollar and make this work. Instead, he went with like total transparency and honesty and candor and said, this isn't going to make it. The moment he realized it. And it turned out to be the right call. And I think what he recognized is, look, this isn't going to be my first company. This isn't my first rodeo. My reputation is everything. How do I salvage my reputation by being honest? And maybe I can come back to them with my next idea.
And I think this is where the best investors, and I actually know a couple of VCs that said that they've listened to this. So for my VC friends, your math is these companies are going to fail. Some of these companies are going to fail outright. That's the math that you live by. Be honest with the people you make investments with, and understand that this is an experiment. It's a bet, and we know that some of this is going to fail, and that you want to have an honest conversation versus being lied to and having crappy board meetings where you have to sort of dig into the details to find out what's actually happening with the company. So we need to wrap this up, but I want to kind of finish this because we started with this idea of employee dishonesty, and I think that the big ones are easy, but how do you deal with small systematic dishonesty? And I'm talking the slight over commitment, the oh yeah, I'm on that, and then you never see it. How do you deal with the smaller stuff? And to what capacity does that become something where you absolutely need to take action, fire somebody, or move to a different or something like that, versus just trying to coach your way out of it and ask yourself those questions?
Yeah, this is just basic management 101, right? So somebody saying that they're going to deliver something and miss, you start to learn to be like we had a factor at Effective where if a certain developer made an estimate, we would just automatically multiply it by 1.5. Right? You just, and it's not lying. It's just they're optimist, and there is a difference between optimistically presenting a timeline versus knowing that you're lying. I think, again, most people are honest. Most people are like, I think I can do this at this point by this time. And you just kind of have to pad in their optimism. That's a system thing where your project team gets to know who's doing the estimates and what and where to pad. That's experience. So
classically, you were just talking about your new product that you're going to be launching. I'm excited to see it. And you said it's been 2 weeks out for how long?
Yeah, exactly right. You've asked me 4 times how much longer, and I keep saying 2 weeks. Now I'm saying it with a smile on my face, fully knowing that it's going to be 2 weeks for probably 3 months. But that is the way it goes, right?
Of my team, I'm the worst at sprint planning because I have this view in my head that I'm going to be able to get all these things done.
Well, let's talk about the fact that you're sprint planning and work our way back.
Yeah. I love working on sprint. All right. So any last kind of points here? And I think that the piece that I want you to focus on before we go to the speed round is, again, as a founder, you control some of this. What are the elements that you need to ask yourself?
Chris, I would like to, I'm going to flip that question on you. I would love your perspective on this. So I've talked a lot. What truthfully, what is your fault and what isn't?
So my take, which is everything is your fault. It's why being a CEO and founder is a very, very lonely and difficult job, is because nothing ever, you don't get to take credit for anything. Up to and including, your family and spouse and friends. They're like, hey, it's good. Your team's amazing. Like, yeah, but I did a little bit of work. I put whatever. Okay. Everything is your fault. Now, the thing that has driven me the most over the past couple of years, and you and I have had so many conversations about this, is that values win. Mission and vision are nothing. It is something, but it's a thing that you just did. And so the question is that if I'm starting to see people being dishonest on a regular basis, the question is what culture have I created? We want a high performance culture. We want people to drive. We want to have mutual accountability. We want to have all these things that we talk about with these great run companies. But it is very, very easy to make people scared. And scared people don't perform at the same level as people that feel psychologically safe. So, again, Project Aristotle, if you want to go look into the study, all the work on psychological safety, I believe it's Carol Dweck, unbelievable research about the importance of psychological safety on teams. If you don't have that, if people can't tell you when something's gone wrong, that's a you problem. And it's so hard, Anthony, because we take on the stress, we take on the ownership of it, and we desperately want to see these things be successful, but it's very, very hard to create safety in startups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Should we get to the speed round, Anthony? Are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? You're going to be doing it today. You good?
Yep.
Okay. Can you take a deep breath? Here you go. Speed round, Anthony.
You can't tell me take a deep breath and then did.
That's fine. That actually
I held it in.
That works as well. All right. Series of questions. Answer the first thing that pops into your brain.
Okay.
I know you always like to say, Chris, that's a stupid question. You can answer that too. It's good. All right. Forgive the lie or forgive the reason behind the lie.
Now, don't forgive a lie. If it's a lie, you don't forgive the lie. That's if you know it's a lie, it's a lie. You don't just you don't give employees grace that lie to you. There's consequences.
All right. Theft under $500, same consequences as $50,000.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Speed round, Anthony. You gotta pick a side here. Pick a lane.
Yes.
Okay. This is a great one. Anonymous tip says your best salesperson fakes numbers. Investigate now, particularly because you're in due diligence to get acquired.
Nah, let it go. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It'll work out. It'll work itself out.
It'll work itself out. Could zero tolerance dishonesty policy survive in the real world?
Well, it just depends on your definition of dishonesty, right? Like what we talked about before. So yes, it can. It absolutely can.
Okay, you should be a lawyer. Deep dive resources, Anthony. The Honest Truth About Dishonesty by Dan Ariely, and The Trust Factor, the Science of Creating High Performance Companies. Very good conversation today, Anthony.
That was good.
Very, very interesting. Also, if an employee lies to you to have to go take care of a sick kid, you're an asshole and you should rethink your whole life. Anthony, get us out of here.
I agree. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify channels. Please smash that like button and leave us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That's what's really, really, look, Chris has a fragile ego, and that's what drives him. It's right. That 5-star review on Apple Podcasts is how Chris measures his value on the planet. So thank you for that. Our audience, is the pioneers of economic prosperity, and we're just grateful to be there along the way with you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
It's almost as if you have no business training at all.